Hello, everyone. Today we are doing lesson 15, My Thoughts Are Images That I Have Made. And we will be reading chapter 2, The Separation and the Atonement, section 5, The Function of the Miracle Worker. And we will be reading paragraphs 1 through 7. That's what's been allotted for today's lesson. And Monday, when we come back in, we'll be reading 8 through 18. Fun, fun, fun. So let's begin here. And just before we begin this, something I'd like to bring to y'all your attention. Um, I've mentioned it a bit here how I'm dyslexic. And one of the things that I've found throughout the years is that a lot of times when I try to read things, I can't comprehend it. And as well as I can read out loud, as you all have seen, I still have issues where words try to flip around, sentences jump around on me, and I have to go back and reread it again. And that's been part and portion of it. But one of the things I have come to understand is that Holy Spirit uses my dyslexia for his purposes. He has blocked me many times from reading things that he would not have me read. I try to read it, and it's like I'm reading Chinese, a foreign language. I'm not understanding what I'm reading. Can't comprehend it in any way, shape, or form. Even listening, it's like they're speaking a foreign language. I can't understand any of it. And up until a couple months ago, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, Alex and I had gone to the Community Miracle Center in San Francisco. It's like a church. And they have these study groups where people come in. It's like a walk-in study group on Monday nights. And at the time, they were reading the manual for teachers. And I came in to a couple of those readings, and it was the first time that I was able to read any of the corresponding text type stuff with the workbook lessons. The first year, my husband and I did the workbook. Neither one of us could understand the text at the time. And it's only in the last, like this is our fourth year doing this course. Um, so it's only in the last year that Holy Spirit has opened it up and allowed me to start reading anything. And this is the first time that I've actually read the text and have been able to understand any of it. Because every other time I've tried to read it, couldn't comprehend it. It was like I was reading a foreign language. So this has been pretty amazing for me to be able to read this stuff and understand it at this time. It's not something I've been able to do. And the understandings that I've gotten are just completely from doing the workbook and from going within and looking at my experiences with Holy Spirit. And so, what I'm finding here in the text right now for myself is a validation that everything He has been telling me is true. Because everything that I have been learning has been coming directly from Source. It hasn't been coming from anyone or anything else. That's all I can say that I know it to be. I haven't been able to read anything else. My husband went and picked up what was it called? That book that you read recently? Yeah, A Course in Love. And I tried reading it. I could not understand a word it said. Yet everything that apparently it's talking about is where I'm already at. So that has been an interesting um, seesaw thing that's been going on for me. Is he'll have me read certain things, and then he'll be like, "Nope, don't read that." Can't, nope, you keep trying to read that, and I'm going to just keep blocking you. And so I've learned to step aside and say, okay, you don't want me reading it. I try to listen to something, can't understand it, and I'm like, okay, you don't want me to hear it. And sometimes, I mean, I've even had moments where someone's standing there talking to me and I'm seeing their mouth move, but no sound. And I'm just like, what? Because there's no sound. I'm watching their mouth move, but there's no sound coming out. Complete blockage. So those are things that I've had to learn to deal with and to understand that when he says something, I'm to listen. If he don't want me reading something, I don't read it. If he wants me reading something, oh, yeah. If I ignore it and ignore, yeah, that don't work. When I try to ignore Holy Spirit, that don't work. And believe me, there's another thing. People say, Holy Spirit doesn't do this. Holy Spirit doesn't do that. He only does this. He only does that. Bullshit. He does this and that. Stop limiting him on what you believe to be true. He is capable of anything and everything, anywhere, anytime, any way, shape, or form. Don't limit him to your beliefs. He is all powerful, all capable of getting you to see the message he has to give you. Always. You just have to be willing to listen. And it's that little bit of willingness that's needed. As I've stated before, I can't bring anybody kicking and screaming into the light. They got to come willingly. And that's the only way you're going to get to the light, is to go through your darkness willingly with Holy Spirit by your side, shining his light before you to show you which steps to take, which path is the path that you need to be on, what the corrections are that it's needed to your misperceptions. And only in that way will you be able to get to the other side, to who you truly are. Let's begin today, okay? 5. The function of the miracle worker. Before miracle workers are ready to undertake their function in this world, it is essential that they fully understand the fear of release. Otherwise, they may unwittingly foster the belief that release is imprisonment, a belief that is already very prevalent. This misperception arises in turn from the belief that harm can be limited to the body. That is because the underlying fear that the mind can hurt itself. None of these errors is meaningful because the miscreations of the mind do not really exist. Thus, recognition is a far better protective device than any form of level confusion, because it introduces correction at the level of the error. It is essential to remember that only the mind can create, and that correction belongs at the thought level. To amplify an earlier statement, spirit is already perfect and therefore does not require correction. The body does not exist except as a learning device for the mind. This learning device is not subject to errors on its own because it cannot create. It is obvious then that inducing the mind to give up its miscreations is the only application of creative ability that is truly meaningful. So, interjecting here, once again, the body is your greatest asset right now. That is your learning device to recognize what it is that you are experiencing. Use it. It's telling you something every moment of the day about whatever it is you're taking into you, whether it's judgments and opinions, whether it's the food you're taking in, the thoughts that are going through your mind that are putting all these suggestions out there, most of them fear based. And it's those kinds of things that you need to look at and recognize. The body doesn't create anything, everything comes from the mind. And the body is only reacting to what the mind is putting out. It's reactionary. It doesn't create on its own. Continuing on. Number 2, magic is the mindless or the miscreative use of mind. Physical medications are forms of spells, but if you are afraid to use the mind to heal, you should not attempt to do so. The very fact that you are afraid makes your mind vulnerable to miscreation. You are therefore likely to misunderstand any healing that might occur, and because egocentricity and fear usually occur together, you may be unable to accept the real source of the healing. Under these conditions, it is safer for you to rely temporarily on physical healing devices because you cannot misperceive them as your own creations. As long as your sense of vulnerability persists, you should not attempt to perform miracles. Interjecting again. As I was saying, I believe in yesterday's sharing in the video on lesson 14, that in my misunderstandings and my beliefs will always color what I perceive. So if when I had first started this course, as I was saying yesterday, that if I had been healed instantaneously in that moment when I had a migraine, I would have been going, oh my God, it's a miracle. And not understanding the connection between my thoughts, my emotions, and feelings, and my physical responses to that type of experience. And until this past weekend, when as soon as I walked away from the things happening with my family, the dramas happening within my family, that migraine disappeared instantaneously. And I was able to connect the dots, the correlations between each, to see the truth of the healing happening and why it occurred. That it was the thoughts in my mind, my beliefs that I was having, the doubts I was having about myself, that maybe I had something wrong, maybe my family was right. And when I looked at that and recognized what I was doing and said, no, this is my truth, and stood up to my truth and stood in his light of truth and shared that with my family once again, that migraine disappeared. And it's that type of stuff that until I was able to see the correlation between them, I would have totally misunderstood what happened, why it happened, and how it happened. All right, let's go ahead and move on. 3. I have already said that miracles are expressions of miracle mindedness. And miracle mindedness means right mindedness. The right minded neither exalt nor depreciate the mind of the miracle worker or the miracle receiver. However, as a correction, the miracle need not await the right mindedness of the receiver. In fact, its purpose is to restore him to his right mind. It is essential, however, that the miracle worker be in his right mind, however briefly, or he will be unable to reestablish right mindedness in someone else. Interjecting, something that correlates with this is something I ran across on Facebook recently. And it was someone saying something about how they are feeling that right mindedness is blocking them to the truth of who they are. That just like egoic thoughts, it's illusory. And right here, it's telling us no, right mindedness is healing. To go with Holy Spirit is to go and ask to be put into our right mind. And when we allow Holy Spirit control of our mind, He reestablishes right mindedness. Only through right mindedness may we heal. That is the only way to heal, is through right mindedness. Everything else is a distortion of the truth. And that's what it is talking about in that paragraph there in 3, is to recognize that the miracle doesn't necessarily need to wait for you to be in your right mindedness. It just needs you to be willing to hand over that control to Holy Spirit for Him to reestablish the right mindedness. And until you do, you can't help anybody else. Until you are in your right mind, all you'll project out is a distorted version of your truth. And that's only what you're believing in as being true, not what is. Continuing on. 4. The healer who relies on his own readiness is endangering his understanding. You are perfectly safe as long as you are completely unconcerned about your readiness, but maintain a consistent trust in mine. If your miracle working inclinations are not functioning properly, it is always because fear has intruded on your right mindedness and has turned it upside down. All forms of right mindedness are the result. All forms of not right mindedness are the result of refusal to accept the atonement for yourself. If you do not, if you do accept it, you are in a position to recognize that those who need healing are simply those who have not recognized that right mindedness is healing. Once again, it's just as I was just speaking about up above in 3, that if you hand it all over to Him, He'll bring you into right mindedness. That you can't think that you know what's best and right for you or for anybody else. You can't know that. And the reason you can't know it is because everything we've been taught to believe in to be true has been a lie. When it's based off of somebody else's judgment and opinion, fears, guilt, and shame, and their pain and suffering, because it's what they're believing to be true. Just because they believe it to be true doesn't make it true. Continuing on. 5. The sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. This means you recognize that mind is the only creative level and that its errors are healed by the atonement. Once you accept this, your mind can only heal. By denying your mind any destructive potential and reinstating its purely constructive powers, you place yourself in a position to undo the level confusion of others. The message you then give to them is the truth that their minds are similarly constructive and their miscreations cannot hurt them. By affirming this, you release the mind from over-evaluating its own learning device and restore the mind to its true position as the learner. Interjecting once again. It's right back to what I was talking about, that by handing everything over to Holy Spirit, He reestablishes right mindedness. And once you've accepted this, your mind can only heal. And when you go to step forward and connect with your brothers, when you connect in right mindedness, you're not repeating something that you've read in a book. You're not repeating something that you've heard someone else say to you. In truth, what you were doing in that moment is sharing your experiences of what you've been through and the lessons learned when you turned to Holy Spirit and He showed them to you. In that moment, that instant, you willingly went with Him and asked Him for your corrections. And those are the lessons that you learned and are now living and enacting in your lives. And those are the lessons and experiences that you share to show your brother another possibility of an outcome, another way of looking at their situation differently. It's not spouting off something you've read. It doesn't give the same measure of, for lack of a better word, believability. They don't feel the conviction when you're reading something from a book, when you just parrot what you've read in a book. There's no conviction of belief of truth there because it's only a concept in your mind at that point. You haven't experienced the truth of it in that moment. That conviction of truth, because you've lived it, speaks volumes more than an idea that you think you might believe in. And that's what it's saying here, is that when you have that affirmation come in and you are released from the stuff that you've been believing in, when your mind gets released from that, your mind is then able to share what it's come to an understanding of with everyone around it. And in that way, you testify to His truth in your life and they witness it, thereby having the option and the ability to take that truth into themselves and see if it resonates and then live it themselves. It's a process. Nothing happens overnight, and it's a lot of work, but it's worth every moment. I guarantee it. 6, it should be emphasized again in that the body does not learn any more than it creates. As a learning device, it merely follows the learner. But if it is falsely endowed with self initiative, it becomes a serious obstruction to the very learning it should facilitate. Only the mind is capable of illumination. Spirit is already illuminated, and the body in itself is too dense. The mind, however, can bring its illumination to the body by recognizing that it is not the learner and is therefore unamenable to learning. The body is, however, easily brought into alignment with a mind that has learned to look beyond it toward the light. Interjecting. As I was saying before, once we turn our minds over to Holy Spirit and ask Him for the corrections to the things that we are misperceiving and believing in to be true, the body follows suit. That's all it can do. The mind brings the thoughts up. You experience it emotionally with your feelings, which translates to a physical response of the body. And in doing so, it brings it to your attention that, hey, something's going on here. I need to look at this. And when you do, you get the truth coming to you. It's all connected. All of it. Connect the dots, folks. Connect the dots. You know, as it says here in this last sentence, the body is easily brought into alignment with the mind that has learned to look beyond it toward the light. You're not your body. You're the spirit within, the soul within the shell. Holy Spirit is in that heart chakra, in there, at your altar with you. He always has been. You've never been alone. He has always been with you. He is shining his light for you into the darkness so you can see what it is you've been doing to yourself with your beliefs, with the things that you believe to be true about you and about the world around you. Look at that light, folks. He's shining it brightly just for you. It's within you. Look. Continuing on with the last paragraph, 7. Corrective learning always begins with the awakening of spirit and the turning away from the belief in physical sight. This often entails fear because you are afraid of what your spiritual sight will show you. I said before that the Holy Spirit cannot see error and is capable only of looking beyond it to the defense of atonement. There is no doubt that this may produce discomfort, yet the discomfort is not the final outcome of the perception. When the Holy Spirit is permitted to look upon the defilement of the altar, he also looks immediately toward the atonement. Nothing he perceives can induce fear. Everything that results from spiritual awareness is merely channelized toward correction. Discomfort is aroused only to bring the need for correction into awareness. And that was paragraph 7. And once again, as I was saying before, when these things come up, when this conflict comes up within you, it is bringing it to your awareness that correction is needed. And in that way, he's letting you know, hey, something's up here. Look at this. That is how you know when something is painful, when it hurts, when it makes you angry, feel uncomfortable, whatever it is that gives you that negative aspect, look at it. As it said there in sentence 5, when the Holy Spirit is permitted to look upon the defilement of the altar, he immediately looks toward the atonement. He bypasses all the other garbage you've laid out there in front of him, blocking yourself, all your judgments and beliefs. He looks past all of that to the truth. And in that way, he shows you the truth. And it does create discomfort and fear because it's making you question everything you've been taught to believe, everything you think you know to be true. And that's a fearful thing to do because all our lives we're taught to believe, to conform to what we're being told, to blindly accept it and not question any of it. And in that way, we have punished ourselves and put ourselves through our own pain and suffering with those beliefs that we enact on ourselves. I may be sounding like a broken record here, folks, but I cannot state this strongly enough that we do all of this to ourselves with what we're believing in to be true, what we're putting our faith and belief into. And 99.9% of those beliefs are judgments and opinions handed over to us from someone else. And that is part of what society wants to continue having. It's a means of controlling the masses by getting people to conform to the dictates of someone else. It's like all your life you felt like you've been out of control, like someone else has all the control. This is why. Because you've been taught to conform to somebody else's dictates and beliefs. And if you don't, you are shamed and guilted in with that kind of painful reinforcement, even physical violence, to conform to their dictates. And that kind of pain and suffering teaches us to do so. Otherwise, we continue to be punished. And nobody likes that. And that's where we make our mistakes, is giving in and saying, okay, 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 I'll believe as you want me to. It doesn't work for us. It just causes us more pain and suffering. When we're not being true to ourselves, when we're not being authentic with ourselves. And we tell ourselves lots of lies. Oh, I only did it because of this. I really needed it. I'm only wanting to comfort myself right now. That's why I'm eating this. I just want to feel good inside. We all do it. And there's nothing wrong with those types of things. It's just recognizing that we do it all to ourselves with our beliefs. Something else here to consider, folks, is that everything we go through, everything we experience, every single thing, without exception, is for our benefit. Always has been, always will be. We simply misperceive and judge it as being otherwise. That's our misperception. We judge it to be otherwise. And that's not true. All of it is for our benefit. Even all the crap I went through as a child. The molestations, the beatings, the rapes, all of it. It was all of benefit to me because I wouldn't be who I am with the understandings that I have and the compassion to connect with my brothers on a level that they can feel that connection too. That heartfelt connection. I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't been through those things that I'd been through. They have all been of benefit to me. And I see that. In everything I misperceived, I chose to believe somebody else's judgment is truth. I did it all to myself. All of it. And that is a truth that most people have a difficult time accepting. But it is the truth. We do it all to ourselves. Always. All right, we're moving on to the lesson of the day, lesson 15.
Why don't you start over on the reading?
Lesson 15. My thoughts are images that I have made. It is because the thoughts you think appear as images that you do not recognize them as nothing. You think them, and so you think you see them. This is how your seeing was made. This is the function you have given your body's eyes. It is not seeing, it is image making. It takes the place of seeing, replacing vision with illusions. This introductory idea to the process of image making that you call seeing will not have much meaning for you. You will begin to understand it when you have seen little edges of light around the same familiar objects which you see now. That is the beginning of real vision. You can be certain that real vision will come quickly when this has occurred. As we go along, you may have many light episodes. They may take many different forms, some of them quite unexpected. Do not be afraid of them. They are signs that you are opening your eyes at last. Excuse me. One moment, please. They will not persist because they merely symbolize true perception, and they are not related to knowledge. These exercises will not reveal knowledge to you, but they will prepare the way to it. In practicing the idea for today, repeat it first to yourself and then apply it to whatever you see around you, using its name and letting your eyes rest on it as you say. This isn't this blank is an image that I have made. This blank is an image that I have made. It is not necessary to include a large number of specific objects, or specific subjects for the application of today's idea. It is necessary, however, to continue to look at each subject while you repeat the idea to yourself. The idea should be repeated quite slowly each time. Although you will obviously not be able to apply the idea to very many things during the minute or so of practice that is recommended, try to make the selection as random as possible. Less than a minute will do for the practice periods. If you begin to feel uneasy, do not have more than 3 application periods for today's idea unless you feel completely comfortable with it, and do not exceed 4. However, the idea can be applied as needed throughout the day. That was lesson 15. My thoughts are images that I have made. And it is bringing together the things that I've been talking about how everything we think we know and believe in to be true has been taught to us by someone else. And that we project out what it is that we believe to be true within our mind and our heart out onto the world around us. So in that moment, we are only perceiving the things that we believe to be true. Anything outside of that field of vision can't be seen by you. It's simply not there. And until you look at those things that you're believing to be true and ask for the corrections to your misperceptions, you will continue to see those types of things. And as you ask for the correction and get it, a light dawns in your mind to the truth, and one kind of snowballs to another. You'll find that many of the things that you continue experiencing now are carryovers from things that you experienced as a child. And in that way, those judgments that you learn then, you have simply been projecting them out continuously on the world around you. Those are the things you keep perceiving. Those are the mistakes, the misperceptions. Those are what we're asking for correction for. Some of the things will start feeling very stressful, very upsetting. And, as it said in the beginning of the book here, that you will find some things that you will actively be fighting against it within yourself. And it matters not. Just do the lessons as you're being asked to do them. Follow them, do them as you're being asked to do. Everything will come together eventually. Connect the dots in your mind. Make it a game. Look at your thoughts. Look at the things you're experiencing. Someone cuts you off, and your mind starts, saying, "Oh, that jerk, that dummy, he should be paying more attention." Look at those things that those thoughts that are going through your mind. Then look at how they are having your body react. How are you feeling inside, emotionally, physically? Because everything you're thinking and saying and doing in that moment is affecting only you. It's not affecting anybody else but you. That person that cut you off, they're not feeling anything. They're going along their way like, I don't know what that person's going on in their mind, but I'm just having a good old time. I'm keeping on going. I'm just trucking down the road, paying attention to nothing. That's why I cut him off. And it's that kind of stuff that we are having brought to our attention. When you have things like that happen, look at them. Don't deny them. There's no faking it here, folks. There's no denying. Denial causes pain and suffering. Faking it till you make it is impossible. Seriously, it's impossible. You cannot fake being happy and joyful and have it come true. You are lying to yourself. You're doing a disservice to yourself. It's only in looking at your stuff with Holy Spirit and going through the darkness can you get to the light. It's like you enter a forest and you need to get to the clearing on the other side of it. And the only way to get there is by going through that forest. Well, once you enter that forest, it's dark. If you want to get to the light, you got to keep going through it to get to that clearing on the other side. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in that darkness. You're going to keep it on, perpetuating it in your life. And it's that refusal to look at it, that denial of it, that keeps it coming back. And each time it comes back, it slaps you harder upside the head, saying, "Look at me," until suddenly it's no longer just going tap, tap, tap or slap, slap, slap. It's now punch, punch, punch because it's wanting you to get it. And the more it comes at you, the harder it hits and the more painful it is and the more you suffer from it. And many times it goes and pushes you to a point where you're saying, well, God damn it, if this is the way it's going to be, then I just want to die. I'm going to just drive my car into a pillar on the freeway and be done with this shit. Many people have hit that spot, that bump in the road, because it's causing so much pain and conflict inside. And in that moment, it's because they are not willingly looking at what it is they're believing to be true. It's not until they look at it, all of it, not just this part that they're thinking is the problem. Look at all of it that you've experienced. Pick that shit apart, bit by bit, thread by thread, word by word, scene by scene. Pick it apart. Take every nuance in and ask him, what is it I am perceiving here? What is it that I'm seeing here? What am I missing? And when you do that, you will be shown the things you weren't seeing prior, that you were glossing over as being meaningless. And that is the part and portion that you were missing. Every time I do this, I am shown. I am shown it. I am given the correction and I am led through to the light. Every time. This is my truth that I am testifying to. That's all I can do is testify to my truth that I have been shown. In sharing my experiences with you, I am sharing my truth. That is all I am able to do. Just repeating what I read in a book, that's not going to get you anywhere. It's a nice concept and idea, but unless I believe it completely in my heart, you're not going to get it. And that's the absolute truth. Just because you believe something in your mind doesn't make it true. All these concepts and ideas that are being put forth to you are for you to take within your heart and ask yourself, is this true? Is what she's saying true? It feels like it, but is it true? Holy Spirit, is what she's saying here, is it true what she's saying? Go to your inner guide and ask him, is this true? And I guarantee you, he will tell you it is true. It is absolutely true. Because it's true for me. Will it be true for you? I can't say. It may or it may not. But until you willingly look inside your heart, look inside yourself at what you're thinking and believing to be true in your mind, you won't know. You'll never know. You got to take a leap of faith that what I'm saying here may be true. Take a leap of faith to go within your own heart and mind and look at what you're believing in. And take that leap of faith to put yourself into Holy Spirit's hands and say, okay, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm willing. Or at least I think I'm ready. And I think I'm willing. And I think I'm ready for you to show me the truth. What is it? Only you know what you're experiencing and going through. I can't know that, and nobody else can. Only you know what you're thinking and feeling in your heart. This was lesson 15. My thoughts are images that I have made. And chapter 2, the separation and the atonement, section 5, the function of the miracle worker. My name's Sabrina Reyenga. Thank you for joining me and my husband Alex today, who's behind the camera, not the counter today. Behind the camera. We've got Chance over here. We got Thor, Stubby, Spaz, Willow, Cinnamon and Nutmeg, the snakes who had their nice juicy meal today. So they're happy, happy snakes. Thank you for joining us. Sending healing energy, blessings of love and light to all. Thank you for joining us today. We love you. Namaste.